Oh, hey YouTube, Rob back again, another video. It's actually very warm here today, so I'm fanning myself a little bit. Yeah, too hot. I've got a beer here, or in this case a pear cider to cool me down. Got my very portable beer opener here, very portable, it fits right in your pocket. I just spilled something. Great. Cheers. Yeah, so must be time to do my end of February update. Oh, it's hot. Right. Oh. Okay, so we'll get started. First of all, here I've got a Steelbook, Ender's Game. Now we all love buying Steelbooks. There's one thing better than buying a Steelbook, and that is getting a free Steelbook. Yes, this one didn't cost me anything. I got this one from Rory, a fantastic YouTuber on here. I managed to sort of win one of his contests, and he sent this along to me in post. Very cool Steelbook, and it's actually not a bad movie though. I think I actually talked about this one in my last update. I did actually quite enjoy this movie, so big thanks Rory for that. He did send me a note as well, just here. So it says, "Hi Rob, I'm hoping this gets to you safe. It gets to you safely in the land down under. Congrats on winning the Steelbook. You can now add it to your extensive collection, Rory." Yeah, so thanks Rory for that. Very cool to have this in my collection. Right, so one of my local stores was doing a 4 for $50 deal, so you can sort of buy 4 Blu-rays for $50. So I did sort of pick up 4 movies, and 2 of them were probably 2 of the worst movies of last year, 2014. But so I don't know. I did sort of pick them up anyway though. I got The Amazing Spiderman 2, which I have heard is pretty terrible, but I'm a bit of a completist, so I thought I'd better. I got the first movie, so I thought I'd better add this to the collection and finish it off. So yeah, I haven't sort of watched it yet. It might, I don't know, it might not be too bad. I might enjoy it. Who knows? But I have heard that people reckon it was, pretty god awful. So it's The Amazing Spider-Man. Here's a movie I have seen, so I know it's not particularly that great, but I still bought it anyway. That would be the new Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie, which I did actually do a review of on my channel, and I wasn't a particular fan of this movie in particular. I thought it was pretty terrible. But, as I said before, I'm a bit of a completist, and I'm a big sort of fan of the Turtles, and it does come in this really nice green case, so it was fairly cheap, so I thought I'd grab it and pick it up, and I might give it another watch, and I don't know, it might not be necessarily as bad as I remember. I'll wait and see. But yeah, it was a pretty terrible film. I'm a big sort of fan of the 90s one, the original sort of first movie, and I think that movie's really good, and this one was just, yeah, not that great, but anyway, it's in the collection, and I just sort of get it to, fill that hole, if that sort of makes sense. That's the Turtles. So there's 2 bad movies out of the way. I can move on to some better movies now. Here's one other one I haven't sort of seen yet. Filth. It says it's actually by the creators of Trainspotting, which I'm not sure whether that's true, because I mean, isn't it? I'm pretty sure Trainspotting and this one was actually based on a book. So is that what they mean? Based on the book, or I think the word creator is a bit, perhaps would refer perhaps more to a movie, perhaps to the magazine of the movie. I don't know. It's sort of. I'm pretty sure they must mean the writer of the book, because these are pretty much books, aren't they? I'm pretty sure. I could be wrong on that, but I'm pretty sure. They're based on books. So I haven't sort of watched this one yet, but I'm sure it'll be a good watch. On to the last of the 4 for 50 deal. A film that's got probably the sort of the 2 biggest action stars of all time. That'd be Sylvester Stallone and Arnold Schwarzenegger, both in the same movie, so it has to be, you know, doubly awesome. It's Escape Plan. It's actually quite enjoyed this one. I thought it was, obviously it's great to sort of see, you know, Sylvester Stallone and Arnie Schwarzenegger in the same movie, and it was actually pretty good, I thought, really. Sylvester Stallone has done, similar movies to this before. It's not necessarily a very original, I suppose, but it's still, I thought it was, a decent movie. Sylvester Stallone sort of plays like his job's to sort of break into prisons and to break out of prisons, I should say. It's his sort of security job to sort of try and find all the weaknesses in these prisons and find a way to escape, sort of thing. And but they sort of, I think very similar to the other movie that he was in, the Lockup or something. You just sort of get put in there, and there's no sort of way out. People sort of the higher people above in the government just decide to get rid of him, so they put him in this prison, most advanced for sort of prison, and just sort of got to try and find a way out. And but yeah, that was actually pretty good. Nice, good sort of scenes to it, and there's a few sort of plot holes, obviously, a few convenience of him, when he escapes, sort of thing. But yeah, it was still a good movie, that I thought. So that's Escape Plan. Onto a film that I think a lot of people have been sort of picking this up recently, and has caused a bit of buzz. It's Gone Girl, which comes in sort of the special digibook style edition with a little the Blu-ray, and there's also got the little book, Amazing Amy sort of book. Now, I did sort of watch this one. I rewatched it the other day, and I'm not sure whether it's because I sort of watched it the other day, but I did sort of think this is probably one of the best sort of films, I think, if not the best film I think I saw last year. But that might be only because I sort of watched it the other day, and it's been refreshed in my memory a little bit. Definitely, a really good film, I thought, and definitely has a really good sort of story to it, and really good performances. Definitely has a bit of sort of a layered storyline, I think, too. You've got sort of a lot of different sort of characters, and they sort of bring their own sort of I guess sort of their sort of part to the film, and very sort of dynamic, I think, sort of different sort of characters sort of being brought together. Essentially, I'm pretty sure most people know what it's about, but it's basically Ben Affleck's girlfriend, actually wife, I should say, goes missing just out of the blue, and the police are very suspicious of him. I think he might have something to do with it, and it's definitely sort of a trial by media type thing, where everyone sort of thinks that he's done something to his wife, and all sort of the talk shows are all pretty much saying that he was the one that sort of did it, and he's got to try and sort of prove that it wasn't him, sort of thing. But definitely, a really good film, and really great. The only problem is at the end. I think a lot of people sort of said that they didn't care for the end, and I think the end just really ruins the whole movie, I think, in my opinion. It's a really great movie, and you really enjoy it up till the end, and it sort of really sort of draws you into the story, and you really sort of want to know what's going to sort of what's happened to the wife, sort of thing, and they sort of have this bit of a twist in it. Just the film, I think, just sort of falls apart. Which I sort of noticed with a lot of other sort of David Fincher films too. His ends for his films are sometimes not all that great. I've noticed. There's definitely a few films that I think the ends just don't sort of fit, or don't sort of make sense, or some way sort of bring the film down. I mean, it's sort of watching it for a second time. I can perhaps sort of appreciate maybe the end a little bit more, and I can perhaps understand it a little bit more, I suppose. But it's sort of the. I mean, it's a bit hard to perhaps sort of explain it without sort of spoiling it. But the very end of the film, I think that's where it really we sort of have the twist, and we sort of find out what's happened, and But I think it definitely should have perhaps sort of cut out perhaps the last sort of 10 minutes of the film, I think, because it really, we've got, we know what happens, and there's sort of the conclusion, but the film sort of keeps going on, and it sort of tries to over-explain, I think, what sort of happened, and I think in some ways it probably should have just sort of cut that last bit out, and because the more you sort of explain it, the more you sort of notice all these plot holes, and the more of it doesn't sort of make sense. Whereas I think they should just sort of cut it off, and so you're not necessarily sort of thinking about too much about the end of it, because I mean there's definitely, the end just wouldn't make sense. It doesn't make sense, because the end just sort of doesn't, there's no logics to it. There's definitely a lot of plot holes in that end, and it just, I don't know, I'm rambling on, but it definitely just sort of ruins the end, I think, of the film, and it just ruins sort of the perfect story, I think, that it is, or, at least for the part of the film it is. Anyway, let's go and go. Another bit of a sort of science fiction-y type one, called Lockout, with Guy Pearce and Maggie Grace. I think I watched this one a few weeks ago, and I thought it was alright. I think it probably could have been a bit better, I think. I think it's sort of just, it wasn't quite there, I didn't think. It's actually sort of just about another sort of prison movie, sort of set in space, and the government sort of trying out this new sort of facility on this spaceship to sort of house all these, the worst type thing. And I think the president's daughter's sort of going up there to sort of check it out, to make sure it's all, working, how, is it legitimate, is it really, is this going to work, type thing. Obviously, sort of while she's there, sort of the prisoners, do manage to sort of break out and sort of take the place sort of hostage, so she sort of ends up being a hostage, and so they sort of send in Guy Pearce here to sort of, try and extract the president's daughter. But yeah, it was a sort of, I don't know, fun watch, I suppose, but I think it could have been a lot better, I think. So let's lock out. Okay, on to some sort of classic sort of black and white films now. This one here is Whatever Happened to Baby Jane, I think from 1962, starring Joan Crawford and what's her name? Betty Davis. Oh, I knew that. Definitely, it's supposed to be a film that definitely sort of film that I don't think necessarily people sort of heard of. So just sort of about sort of these two sisters, and when they were sort of young, they were sort of child stars, or sort of dancers and singers sort of thing, and they were really sort of popular and really cute. They were about 8 years old or something, so everyone sort of loved them. And the film was just sort of basically when they sort of grow up into sort of older women, and sort of the fame's sort of gone, and they're sort of both living together in the same house, and essentially just sort of hate each other, sort of thing. It's actually very interesting this sort of film got made too, because I mean these two actresses were actually apparently in real life much sort of hated each other, and really had a lot of issues with each other. So it's a bit of a surprise they sort of got together and sort of made this film. But I mean, I suppose they sort of hated each other in real life, so they could obviously act hating each other in a film. I suppose that wouldn't be that wouldn't be too much, it wouldn't be sort of too much of a stretch, I wouldn't think. But it's actually a pretty good film, I thought, really. Did sort of remind me a bit of sort of Misery, sort of similar sort of storyline to that, type thing, and perhaps it was a little bit too long, I thought, and some sense perhaps it sort of drag out a little bit too long, perhaps. But definitely some really great performances by the two lead actresses, and definitely think sort of in some ways, I think a film that I think they were both sort of in some way sort of washed up. Well, that's probably a strong word, but they were sort of washed up actresses, and so this is sort of one of their sort of last attempts to sort of make a sort of a meaningful type of film. Also, Betty Davis was actually nominated for I think best sort of actress award for this film. I think 1962. But apparently, Joan Crawford, she didn't get her nominated, which apparently she was a bit upset about. And apparently, the story goes that Joan Crawford went around to all the other actresses that had sort of been nominated, that year, and so I sort of said to them, well, look, if you for some reason can't go up and accept the award when you win, I'll be certainly happy to go up and accept it on your behalf, sort of thing. Which apparently is what sort of happened. I think pretty sure it was Anne Bancroft. I think she actually sort of win that year, and For some reason she couldn't go up, so these two were sort of in the wings, and Joan Crawford sort of pushed past Betty here and said, "Excuse me, Betty, I've got an award to accept." So just sort of went on stage and, accept the award sort of thing. Which apparently pissed off, Betty Davis here. Well, that was a, pretty funny story. But definitely, yeah, good sort of film, I thought. Also a classic, and definitely great performances by these two. So that's whatever happened to Baby Jane. Another classic one here. Another sort of Betty Davis film, actually. All About Eve, I think from 1950. And I have sort of heard a lot of good things about this. A lot of people, I've sort of heard a few people sort of recommend this and say that it's a really good film. And I think I've even sort of heard that some people reckon it's one of the sort of the best films ever made. I think it did sort of win, nominated for 14 Oscars and winning 6, including Best Picture, I think, for 1950. So I just sort of watched it, and I don't know, I didn't think it necessarily was that amazing. I don't know, it was maybe it's just a case of perhaps it being a bit dated, perhaps. I can sort of see, perhaps why people do like it, and maybe sort of at the time it probably would have been a big hit, I think. But I don't know, just for me, it just didn't seem to really, I don't know, it didn't sort of blow me away. I think, sort of like, I think Anne Baxter was, she was sort of the lead role in the movie, I guess. Which you'd probably think that it'd be more Betty Davis here, but she was more of a sort of supporting character. Essentially, Betty Davis here sort of like a big, sort of famous sort of theatre actor sort of thing, and really, and I think Anne Baxter, so she's like a fan of Betty Davis here, and kind of sort of waits out, sort of in the hallway for sort of just sort of catch a glimpse of Betty Davis here sort of walking past, sort of when she sort of finished the play sort of thing, and she's obviously a big sort of fan, and but she eventually does sort of get invited into the dressing room and gets to sort of meet her idol sort of thing, and it sort of starts out with just her sort of being just sort of there, sort of helping out, and I guess you'd call it like a personal secretary type thing for Betty Davis here, and she's sort of it's all sort of innocent, and she just wants to sort of be a part of it sort of thing. But they just sort of turn into this. You sort of think, well, maybe she's sort of after a bit more, after after a leading role, or after the the husband sort of thing, and that's just sort of where the sort of the film goes to. But I mean, I didn't mind it, but I just I don't know, wasn't quite as amazing as I was sort of expecting. Maybe I sort of I don't know, went into it perhaps with a bit too much expectations perhaps for it. But I mean, I don't know, it was pretty good though, I thought, really, but not necessarily, I don't know, it was okay, I suppose. So that's All About Eve. Okay, on to a sort of a more recent sort of I don't know what we call it, sort of The Cave, sort of a horror type movie, I guess. And pretty sort of standard sort of stuff. I mean, you can probably guess what it's about. About these sort of cave divers, or whatever you call them, sort of going for explore down some caves, and of course the cave sort of collapse, and obviously they've got to try and find an alternative route to get out of the place. Very sort of cliche type stuff, but it's still sort of fun to watch, and sometimes I don't mind sort of watching films like this. You sort of know the basic premise, but just sort of a bit of fun. So that's The Cave. On to a couple of animated ones. One here I've sort of been wanting to actually watch for quite a while, because I've heard really good things about it. That's the triplets of Belle de Ville, I think that's how you sort of say it. I think from 2003. I'm not quite sure where it's from though. It might be an Italian. I think it might be Italian or French or something. It's sort of all in a different language, and it's kind of a silent film, I suppose. Really, there's not much sort of dialogue to it. But definitely, one I actually quite enjoyed though. It's very sort of, sort of great sort of animation to it, and very sort of quirky. And so it's just sort of about sort of this old lady and her grandson, I suppose, and he's sort of racing in the Tour de France, and sort of gets kidnapped. So she sort of sort of goes after him to try and find out where he is, sort of thing. And I guess in some ways not necessarily a very in-depth storyline, I suppose, to it, but she just sort of goes off and tries to find him, and meets up with the triplets of Belle de Ville, and very sort of artistic, I suppose, in sort of some ways, and there's not sort of much dialogue to it. It's just all about sort of the visual and very sort of simple sort of story, just about sort of her trying to track him down, and just sort of what happens, while she's trying to track him down, type thing. But I actually quite enjoyed it. I thought it was actually really well animated, and some really great sort of visuals to it, and yeah, definitely worth checking out. So that's triplets of Belle de Ville, I think that's how you say it. Yes, that's good. And finally, I got a Series 2 of Hey Arnold, which I did order with Series 1, but that hasn't come yet. I don't know why it hasn't. I think I got this on Tuesday, and today's Sunday. I haven't sort of got the first one yet. I don't know what's happened, because they would have been sent at the same time, but anyway. This is definitely one of my favourite shows, I think, when I was growing up. I was a big sort of fan of this TV show growing up, and had to sort of pick it up on DVD and sort of relive my childhood a little bit. So that's Hey Arnold. So that's it. That's my update. Thanks for watching. If you sort of see any of these, certainly leave me a comment and tell me your thoughts. But that's it for now. So yeah, bye.